Well, they say that the Astartes, the Marine, is a thing of iron will. They don't know the meaning of the word. I am a princeps of the Collegia Titanica, and I can tell you a thing or two about will. Try staring down a mountain, and the mountain flinches and moves to avoid your gaze. Then, and only then, do you know what it is to be a princeps? Every day I wrestle with a being that has existed from before the time the Primarchs strode the stars. A lot longer. He has had 1,000 pilots, 1,000 princeps. He has learned from them all and is a mighty combatant. His machine spirit is strong. Stronger than most he stands amongst. Ostium Pernices in High Gothic. In Low he is roughly enemy's bane, and I consider it the crowning glory of my life to serve with him, to ride him into battle, to work with him to destroy the enemies of the Imperium. Before I came, he had not been mastered in 100 years. His machine spirit was so strong. The second I heard of him, the second I met his gaze, I knew. I stood and looked at this towering god machine, all 14 meters of it and more. It could be only he that was worthy of me, and I that was worthy of him. And we have brought annihilation down on the enemies of mankind from that moment onwards. Oh, how he struggled, how he rebelled, gaining his respect, gaining his compliance, proving myself to him. It was the most epic struggle of my life. Compared to this, no battle has ever been the match. But bend him to my will I did. Now we are one. As the connections are attached by a gaggle of tech priests in their red robes, I am instantly aware of the whirlwind that is my Titan. As I bid my friend good morning, he shows he is feeling frisky today. More to put it, he's feeling hot for the fight. He has witnessed 2 of his brothers die before his eyes. We watch together. We feel the white-hot rage together. Today, we bring this Xenos scum to heel. Today, we exact our revenge. He lets me know he is angry by resisting my first commands, but it is only a signal. I stared at the mountain, and it has flinched. Soon, he moves as I wish, but he has let me know. I am in accord with Ostium Pernices. I never shorten his name. I never abbreviate. It is beneath both of us. Before I was even permitted to enter this control center on that very first day we met, the guards checking my credentials even this deep inside him, I made that promise. Respect. I took the formal oath. This machine is discharged into your care. Fight with this machine and guard it from the shame of defeat. Serve this machine as you would have fight it for you. While I mouthed the standard response, I shall. I swore another oath. I would not be his last princeps. I would bend him to my will. We would bring fire down on any who threatened the Imperium. But the oath I swore was that I would die before Ostium Pernices. He would come out of my tenure as his pilot with glory. But he would come out of it intact. He would sustain damage, of course, but I would not be responsible for the destruction and the death of a holy god machine that had served longer than my family had carried its present name. This I swore. But Ostium Pernices cares not for survival. He's a thing of rage and retribution. His hackles are up, and he needs to be let loose. So today, I shall give him his head, and we shall take this Eldar that has hunted our colleagues, Ostium Pernices' brothers and mine, and destroy it. The twisted Xenos have dared to emulate the god machines of the Imperium. Impertinent Eldar scum. Their time is over. They should know when to die. Today we will teach them this lesson. As the sun rises, we march from the base and take our place behind the lines. I have 2 Moderati subordinates that assist me, but I care not to discuss them. They are necessary, nothing more. They are merely my aides, taking the slack of managing the mundane activities. It is I and Ostium Pernices who will fight this day, fight this battle. We wait for the first sign of our quarry. We do not wait long. Information is relayed to us and the Xenos has fallen into my well-wrought trap. Ostium Pernices is fractious and despises to wait. The whirlwind that is my friend rebels and we wrestle again. It is exhausting, but I master him for his own good. And we wait. Our opposite number does what it has done for weeks now, arrives with the first light and proceeds to exact a horrifying toll from the forces arrayed before it, my colleagues, the forces of the Imperium. Today, I have arranged with the General of the Militarum to have his columns advance toward it, knowing my foe from hard times studying the Picts. We watch. It dances across the fire lines, moving at speeds and with agility that are simply impossible for Ostium Pernices and I. More the better. Arrogance. We let it go into its dance. I hear the complaints of the General as he bleats about the losses and demands our intervention. I ignore him. His tanks and men are like an ocean, easily replaced. We wait for the appropriate time, but move up cautiously, stalking our prey. The Eldar moves to higher ground and fires down on the tank column. He is too fast for them to even dream of targeting with their clumsy guns. I order the artillery to fire as arranged. The huge Eldar thing then reacts by running along the edge of the hills, easily evading the box barrages. I almost feel I can hear it laughing. As it reaches the middle of the valley, we enact our plan. Ostium Pernices and I make ourselves known. It runs with the speed and grace of an unbaggaged athlete, so perversely graceful. Ha! We are ready. We stride forward with as much clumsiness as is possible. We are so slow, so cumbersome, but the Xenos filth knows it will need to get closer for its feeble weaponry to pierce our void shields. It begins to fire on us, to blind us, to antagonize us. We fire back and miss, of course, in our rage. But our plasma arcs too high and lands too low. It lands in the valley floor, hundreds of meters before the ridge. Look, Xenos, we are incompetent. The shields light up under its barrage of oh-so-accurate fire. It is literally charging along the ridge. We would be outflanked and destroyed, like the 2 god machines that had taken the field before. Not today. As the thing rushes along, I order the charges that we placed to be detonated. The ridge explodes, along 100 meters or more. The Eldar thing loses its footing as I planned, and rolls down to the valley floor. Even that it makes look graceful somehow. But it is too late. It lands in the pools of plasma fire that we set up, and it slips and slides like a grox on ice. And in that second, that moment of weakness, of vulnerability, where all of its speed and grace mean nothing, I let Ostium Pernices his head. He takes his revenge for the deaths of his brothers. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, and I wish to introduce you to the forces and factions of the Warhammer 40k universe. Today, we shall discuss the most powerful and ancient of all of the forces at the Imperium's command. Today, we shall discuss the god machines of the Collegia Titanica, Imperial Titans. To quote, No weapon in the arsenal of the Imperium or the traitor equals the Titan on the battlefield, and a legion of such vast war machines can bring any world to its knees. In truth, a Titan has only 3 enemies: folly, hubris, and another of its own kind. Grandmaster Vulcus, Ordo Sinister of the Divisio Militaris. The soul of the machine god surrounds thee. The power of the machine god invests thee. The hate of the machine god drives thee. The living god endows thee with life. Live. The Litany of Ignition. End quote. But what is a Titan? Well, gentle listener, it is a thing almost beyond the scope to imagine, in all of its glory. They truly are the masters of the battlefield, the very wrath of the Emperor in metallic form. For a Titan is a machine of war from a different era. Their genesis harkens back all of the way to the dark age of technology. They are colossi of human ingenuity and brilliance that are now all too rare in the grim darkness of the future. A Titan is a machine, a tool of war, that can stand between 14 to 40 meters high. They are armed with weaponry that can melt mountains and wipe entire cities off the map in mere hours. Equipped with incredibly powerful and arcane defenses called void shields, they are almost impregnable to the firepower of lesser constructs. Artillery bounces off their shields and, even if it penetrated, will barely scuff the meter-thick armor of these Goliaths. Only a vehicle or weapon specifically designed and constructed to injure these mighty walking bastions of power can hope to inflict even the smallest harm. As stated, there is little that can bring them low, but another of their kind. For in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there are Titans of other races. There are Titans that march under the banners of the traitorous forces of chaos. But if one of these threats are not present to counter the force and power of a Titan, there is little hope for any of its adversaries to stand before it. In the future, I will go into the technicalities and specifics of how void shields work and the many vast weapons at the command of a Titan. But this is only an introduction. I feel that it best that we do not try to skip over these incredibly interesting and engaging details in an introduction, so we'll beg your patience in this regard. Just know, we will get to these details in time. One of the most important things to know about the Collegia Titanica is how truly rare they are. From the Titans themselves to the very men and women who pilot them, the Princeps and their subordinates, the Moderati. In the Imperium, it is said that a Psyker is a rarity, though this may not be the case as the Psychic Awakening unfolds. So too a Navigator, which I will explain at another point. Even an Astartes, a space marine, is 1 in a million, if not billion, human beings. All are rare and precious to the function and survival of the Imperium, but they are like drops of rain compared to the Princeps. There are literally millions of spacefaring vessels in the Imperium of Man, and perhaps 1 million or more Astartes, depending on your sources. For there is little chance of gaining exact figures for anything in the Imperium due to its vastness and the inefficiency of its administration. So convoluted is it, but the Princeps number in their thousands only. For the Titans are rare and ancient, and few are able to be built to maintain the numbers of these mighty god machines of war. But rare too is the human with the sheer willpower and sense of self that can master and then pilot a Titan. Titans have a thing called a machine spirit, which I will again go into in a separate entry, as it is so very complicated, but try to think of it not as an artificial intelligence, but a huge id. A huge set of urges and drives that have been embedded and augmented over thousands of years. The very Titan itself must be mastered for it to be piloted, and for it to perform the task that it is ordered to perform by its Princeps. In the throes of battle, the slightest distraction, the most infinitesimal of delays, can mean the difference between victory and defeat. And when the battle is of such import, a such moment, that the use of Titans has been agreed, then there can be nothing but total victory. If a Princeps shows even the tiniest of weaknesses, then he and his Titan are doomed. For when Titans match up across the field of battle, there is never quarter asked or given. Never. Hence must the Princeps be a person of limitless resolve, endurance, and tenacity. They must have a mind and sense of purpose so refined that they are indeed 1 in a trillion. But if these monsters of war are so powerful and so desperately required by the forces of mankind, why does the Imperium not generate more of them with alacrity? Well, for this question I must ask your patience again. The full history of the scientific degradation of the human race and the Imperium I will brook in my forthcoming entry on the Adeptus Mechanicus, but for the moment, just know that the Imperium is not going forward in its knowledge and scientific powers, but actually shrinking and retarding in this matter. More and more knowledge and technical skill slips from humanity with each passing year, so the Imperium is constructing as many Titans as they are able, but that this number goes down as time passes. It is certainly not enough to match the rate of attrition in a galaxy of eternal war. During the Great Crusade, there were many more Titans and their use was much more commonplace. Alas, when the toll of that civil war, known as the Horus Heresy, was tallied, the greatest loss was probably not the numbers of the Astartes, the Space Marines, as people may think. The real cost of that war came in the culling of the numbers of Titans. As the heresy was unfettered war, legions of these great machines were set one against the other and their numbers smashed in little under a decade. From this massed carnage, the numbers of Titans have never recovered. Now, the legions of Titans that remain number forces in their tens and dozens instead of their hundreds and thousands. The maiming of the Emperor is the greatest loss of the heresy, but its very close second place must be the reduction of the Titans to a handful of vehicles. This, above all other things, weakened the Imperium and made it a shadow of its former glory, let alone the shining beacon of progress and prosperity it should have been. Thus the deployment of even a single Titan, let alone an entire formation of them, is done with deep deliberation. It is also why a Princeps of the Titanicus can flagrantly ignore any instructions from Astra Militarum commanders that they wish. The comeback is rarely of note to the Titanicus command structure, for the General of the Guard will look at the deaths of hundreds of thousands of his men and weigh this up against the potential loss of 1 or 2 Titans and believe the loss is acceptable. To the Collegia, this is simply insane, as the one thing that the Imperium has in abundance is billions of humans it can use up in its wars of survival or expansion. But when a Titan is gone, it is gone. They are all but irreplaceable. Hence it is a rarity beyond measure for a campaign to include the use of these ancient weapons of war. For what is the loss of even millions of replaceable and expendable resources weighed against the loss of a god machine that has existed for tens of thousands of years? For when all is said and done, the legions of Titans will soon be needed like they have never been needed since the dark days of the heresy. With the Tyranids able to blurt out creatures of similar size and potency, the Orcs able to literally cobble Gargants, their own Titans, together out of what would seem to be piles of detritus, and the Eldar able to literally sing their own Titans into existence. The survival rate of the Imperial Titan is under threat like never ever before, and without their god machines, without their Titans, the human race is inexorably and unavoidably lost. I have been Voldemort, your faithful servant. I hope you enjoyed my criminally brief introduction to the Collegia, but have no fear, we shall investigate their weaponry, their makes and models, and all else about them as time goes by. If you have enjoyed my introduction to the Collegia Titanica and Titans, then please do consider liking and subscribing. Should you be a regular gentle listener, please do consider supporting us on Patreon. If this is not possible, then please do consider sharing this video. It would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.